Hi, and welcome to another lesson from Worship Media Pro. In this lesson, I'm going to cover how to set global parameters for your song lyrics and Bible verses and passages. By default, EasyWorship creates the songs and the passages to occupy the entire space on the projector, which is fine for a good default setting. But what we're going to do is we're going to modify it to kind of fit in more the classic real world type scenarios where you do have motion backgrounds, or maybe you have a live camera feed and you want to just occupy a space of that live camera feed and not take up the entire screen. So let's get started on that. What I have here is a very quick schedule I created, and I just put Doxology, one of my favorite songs, and I have the opening song, and then I have it listed as a closing after service as well, so an hour later. And I can really just copy that down here at the bottom of the schedule. A schedule is designed to be a flow of the service, and I talk about that more in another tutorial, and it's called Creating Your Services, or Schedule, sorry. So let's go to global settings here. I'm going to go to live. So live is essentially everything that's projected onto the output screens, whether it's projectors or LED monitors. I'm going to go to option. And under general tab, you'll see this is where I deal with the real estate of my screen or screens. And what I have here is my text margin. That's what I'm going to focus on, not screen margin and not bleed margin. These margins here are dealing with maybe unique screens where your aspect ratio is not truly 16:9 or it's not truly 4:3, and you have to kind of work with it. But I'm going to leave these as 0 because this works for me. Text margin is what I'm going to focus on. And you know, by default, it's actually all zeros. And if you see what it looks like for all zeros, it's actually, and we'll go to songs here and we're going to say center. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And actually, this is at like 16 or something like that. You can see how that's not going to work, right? So I'm going to bump this back down to 9. I'm going to go back to my general, and I'm going to tweak some margins here. But before I do that, I kind of want to have a good idea of how my song lyrics are going to appear the way I'd like them to appear. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to focus on top, and I'm going to still keep centered, because centered just does look cleaner. Of course, I could do left, right? And we can play with that. We'll leave it at left just for this example here, for this tutorial. Now I have it all zeros out here, and I'm going to add a little bit of a margin at the top. Maybe put 4 here. I'm going to add a little bit of a left margin because I just don't want it hugging the screen, especially if I have a little bit of bleed I need to deal with. And I'm also going to focus on my bottom, and you're going to see why I'm going to focus on my bottom and my left in a second here. So I'm going to do 5, and then I'm going to focus on my bottom, and I'm going to put that at 4. Okay, and I'll show you why in a moment here. I'm going to deal with the bottom margin. Okay, going to songs here, I'm going to set my song font. It actually is Tamaha, I think that's the name of it, as the default, and I'm going to change it to Arial just because it looks a little better and it looks a lot cleaner when you're putting borders around it and shadows. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at what we now have. So looks pretty good. Now it's just left to right. It occupies the top left corner, allows for still the background to look good. And what we could do is we can go live with this. And oops, I'm going to go back to this guy, and I'll just drag this down here so you can see what it looks like. So there you go. Looks really good. It'll transition really good as well, but there's only one chorus on this particular song. All right, so that's how I dealt with the lyrics globally. Now I can do this individually inside the song itself. So I'm only going to edit the song in the schedule, so it's a little bit more unique. I can change my font to something different. I can put it for Dana, whatever it might be. I can bump up the text, and this is good if you have a situation where the background is different and you need a little bit more real estate to deal with that background. And you only want to do it for that particular song. So that's how you do for individual songs inside of the schedule. Now let's look at a live feed. So a live feed, realistically, you're going to have either the band up here playing, and if the band is playing, you're going to focus more on this top real estate for displaying on the live feed, and then you're going to deal with this bottom real estate for either the lyrics, and in this example I have a passage. And so this is how you want to set this up. So let's take a look at how it's done. And I'm focusing on the main first camera for my feed. Notice I have 2 feeds here. You can have as many feeds as you like depending on all the camera angles and different cameras that you have if you do have multiple cameras. So let's go back to this particular one here, and I'm going to go back to live, because whenever you're making global options, you're really just focusing on the live output. That's the most important. I'm going to go to scriptures, and notice I have my text alignment to be left, how I have it justified here. I have my vertical alignment to be bottom. That's exactly what I wanted. And you notice that Luke 9:60 is lifted off of the top here, or off the bottom a little bit. Well, that's the 4 margin that I put on there. See that 4% margin on the bottom? So that's why it's lifted. If I didn't do that, it would be actually flush, and that probably wouldn't be good. And then I changed my font to Arial to match the rest of my stuff, and I changed this to 9 as well to match everything else that I have as far as lyrics go. So there's also scriptural references and how you tweak that. That's essentially right here, the Luke 9:60 reference. But that's it. So really quick tutorial on how to set your global settings and individually per song inside of a schedule or verses inside of a schedule. Hey, let me know if this tutorial was helpful for you, and give me ideas for other tutorials that you want me to do for everybody. I would love to do them. Thanks so much, and God bless.